Hi, this video is all about labelling and how labelling can affect children.
Great, welcome Caroline.
Okay.
In your book you have a chapter all about labels. Can you just explain what you mean by labels in this context?
Okay, well, labelling is kind of like calling children things like, shy, naughty, helpful, inconsiderate. They're kind of like all-encompassing names for behaviour.
Okay, so if a child gets labelled as a naughty child, how could that be harmful for it perhaps in the future?
Well, the thing about having a label is that it can become like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So if a child is always called naughty, they're going to think, well, I'm going to be naughty. That's what I am. That's part of me. And
so the child would play up to that almost.
Yes, yeah. And people perceive the child's behaviour as being naughty, even if it isn't naughty, but because that's the label that the child has.
Okay, so is it possible that you could give our parents some tips about how to avoid labelling children?
Okay. Well, if you can describe the behaviour as opposed to just saying the child's naughty. So, for instance, if the child's called naughty, the child might be called that because they've cheated doing their homework, they copied somebody else's homework, or because they spilt milk all over the table, or because they pinched their baby sister. So there's lots of different reasons why the child might be called naughty. But it doesn't help if they're just called naughty, because they might not actually know what it is that they've done wrong that's made them naughty. But if you just say what they've done, then they can stop that. So you can say, when you copied your friend's homework, that wasn't going to help you learn how to do fractions, or your teacher won't know how to help you with that. So if you describe the behaviour, then the child can do something about it. Whereas if they're just called naughty, they don't have a clue about what they can do to make it different.
Okay, so if I called a child good, for example, consistently, I'd feel as though that was quite a good thing to do for my child. But in your book you mentioned that perhaps even positive labels can be harmful.
Yeah, positive labels can become like a straitjacket as well, because a child might not always want to be good. I'm not advocating that the child's bad all the time, but it's like if a child being called helpful, for instance, sometimes they might not want to be helpful. They might want to get on with their project and be single-minded about something. So actually having a positive label, can also make you kind of just go down one direction and not be able to really explore your whole potential.
Yeah, and you specifically mentioned labelling children with disability because that can also be a harmful thing.
Yeah, so for instance, if the child's got a disability, you might kind of see the child as being very vulnerable, for instance. But if you always treat that child as being vulnerable or being very, very fragile, then they can get a secondary handicap which stops them kind of going out and maybe trying new skills and going out and testing their own independence. So having to be quite careful not to give a child a secondary handicap as well as the one or the difficulty they've already got.
It might be useful for parents to also understand how we can recognise that we're giving children labels ourselves and think for ourselves perhaps how we can prevent that.
Yes, well, that's by describing behaviour. So you describe the behaviour, what the child actually has done, like you drop the biscuit all over the carpet and now it's got rubbed in, as opposed to you've been such a clumsy child.
Okay, well those are all really useful tips, Caroline. Thanks very much.
Okay, it's a pleasure.